Good morning, and welcome to the Red and Ed Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. My name is Jay Edgar, and I'm joined actually, it looks like I'm not joined by anybody today. I know that there was a big project that popped up there right at the last minute. I had hoped that my wonderful co-host had been able to finish that before she was able to get up to the show here, and I do actually have the Zoom meeting open if she does manage to break free and finish it up there. So if she winds up over here, then that's going to be that. But until then, I guess I'm just going to have to fly it solo here today. So we've got some stuff to talk about here. We definitely have some stuff going on with this right now. It looks like we had debate recap this week. We'll talk a bit about what happened with the debates, and Trump has COVID. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that over there. There's been some updates. It's been going back and forth, up and down with this. Nobody seems to know really what's going on here. In other news, Lori Lightfoot had a bit of a cringe video this past week in celebration coming up for Halloween. And a series of leaked Melania Trump tapes made the rounds this week, so we'll talk a bit about what was going on there, what that means, and I guess what that means for me as we go along with that. So thanks everybody for coming by and checking us out, even though I am flying solo today. Thanks for checking out. We are streaming live right now to YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. And hey, if you're over on Facebook, get in the live chat in one of the links that you see above you there, because I would love to take some time and answer some of your questions, but I can't do that because I can't see your chat from the Restream bot that I have over here. So feel free to get up into one of those and we'll answer your questions. I do take questions in between topics. So without further ado, we do have a couple things to clean up, as it were, before we get into anything else. There are a couple things that are just popping up as we go along. Michigan, the governess over there, has had her power stripped away from her. Michigan Supreme Court rules against governor's emergency powers. So this past week, a case went up through the Michigan State Supreme Court, and all of a sudden now Gretchen Whitmer, who had so much power coming up into this election, now doesn't have any of the power anymore, at least according to the Supreme Court. Now, Whitmer came out immediately and said that she was still going to enforce the law as done, and she was still going to go along with everything that she had going. But in an interesting twist, somebody in her cabinet actually came out and said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, reading now from the Detroit News, Whitmer's COVID-19 orders effectively end as Nessel withdraws enforcement. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel will no longer enforce Governor Gretchen Whitmer's executive orders on the coronavirus, effectively ending dozens of statewide edicts after the Michigan Supreme Court 2 days earlier struck down the governor's emergency power. Since the state's chief law enforcement officer declined to keep enforcing the governor's COVID-19 restrictions on Sunday, the Whitmer administration is now forced to pursue other ways to maintain public health restrictions after initially insisting the orders remain in effect pending a supposed 21-day legal reconsideration period. Nessel's office on Sunday made clear the department will no longer enforce the governor's executive orders through criminal prosecution. So, yes, as of this moment right now, Governor Whitmer's orders are null and void. And if she does try to continue to keep her emergency powers up, then nobody's going to enforce it. Basically, she's sitting here toothless with a bunch of other stuff off of this. So that's what we're going to see. And I mean, you're glad to see it. You're definitely glad to see something like this, because if you don't see something like this, then we go back to a straight out monarchy at this point. It just becomes something else where nobody's going to, I mean, why we have a legislature if the governor can just act completely on not federal edict, but on edict of her own. If she doesn't have to answer to anybody, why would we ever have a legislature anymore? We came away from a monarchy, and even the countries that had a monarchy that we came away from have moved into a legislative body, because one person can't rule over everybody, no matter how bad they try. And we're seeing it all over the place in Illinois. J.B. Pritzker, I mean, he fell out of the news almost immediately because he got the good sense to stop trying to enforce everything under emergency edict. But we have Whitmer, we have Newsom, we have Cuomo and de Blasio butting heads over who is the one that has the actual most power in the state. That's an interesting dichotomy to go through is who has the most power in any of this, whether it be Cuomo at the state level or de Blasio at the local level. And I would actually see to de Blasio, because what's going to happen up in Albany and the rest of upstate New York is going to be very, very different, and the needs are going to be very different than what is needed in New York City. So that was an interesting one for me to see. In other news here, we have a little bit of news in the Breonna Taylor case. Now, I talked about this morning over on Contemporary, but I wanted to make sure that this got out to my other audience as well here. Looks like the Daily Mail has got some video going on over there, but the Daily Mail put out a story that says fired cop charged over Breonna Taylor's death thought his colleagues were being executed when he opened fire, according to testimony revealed in grand jury recordings. So, just to read down off of this, I mean, there isn't much there. Brett Hankinson came out and pointed out the fact that, well, he thought that because one of his fellow officers got shot and hit in the leg, that whoever was doing the shooting was going to kneel down and execute him. So he decided to fire back willy-nilly, which I said this morning as well is, I mean, he should have been charged with wanton destruction and wanton disregard for human life, because what's the first rule of hunter safety? What's the first rule of gun safety anywhere? Know your target and what's beyond it. Always know your target and what is beyond it. Every time you put your finger into the trigger guard, and do not put your finger into the trigger guard unless you are ready to pull that trigger and you know where you're shooting. So, and I know a lot of the people out there say, well, the property got more justice than Breonna Taylor did. Well, that may not be the case either. So, reading down into this article, I mean, for 10 paragraphs of this article, it is going over basically leaked audio from, and just covering what the leaked audio said over in the case that was coming up out of this. But 11 paragraphs down was something that was interesting off of this that nobody's really covered. We go down past a picture and everything off of this here. He also told investigators that the EMT's boyfriend initially claimed that she was the one who shot at the officers when they entered her apartment. Hankinson told investigators in an interview heard by the grand jury that Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, had told him she was the one who shot at us. Walker later said that he was the one that opened fire. And that really does make an interesting change in the way that this case goes out. Because, and it makes a lot more sense, too, as to why Breonna Taylor would have got shot. Now, of course, we're knowing at this point, no matter what happens, we've pretty well figured out and we pretty well understand the fact that Breonna Taylor was not laying in her bed sleeping when she was shot to death by police officers who were entering an apartment. I mean, the articles that came out even before the grand jury testimony came out, that even before the grand jury convened, the testimony that came out in written form showed the fact that Breonna Taylor was in the hall when all of this went down. She was far, far away from the bed that she was claimed to have been sleeping in. And now, if she was the one that opened fire on the police officers, that would make a lot more sense. So, one of two things could have been happening here as well. Now, police hear gunshots, they fire in the direction of the gunshots. So, either Walker was using Breonna as a human shield, which is definitely a possibility as well. I mean, if you're in this situation, I tend not to think that there's honor among people who would be in a situation like this. Now, I don't think that there should be laws against drug crime. In fact, I don't think there should be a drug crime. I don't think there should be any of this. But once you're getting into the point where you are up on a drug crime, there is the possibility that he was using her as a human shield. Therefore, when the officers shot, they shot towards where the gunshots were coming from and hit Taylor. But the other big possibility to this is that he was right the first time, and she was the one that was doing the shooting, and that's why they shot back, and that's why she took 6 bullets and he barely took a scratch out of all of this. There is a lot to think about in this situation. This is not as cut and dry as anybody put out there, but I mean, it took a newspaper out of the UK to report that little detail that Walker had initially said that she might have been the one that was shooting, and now we don't know what happened off all of this, and I don't think we're ever going to know what actually happened in this case, which is probably a big part of the reason. And I do think that there's a good portion of the decision came out of that little detail that nobody knows who was actually doing the shooting. So that's a lot to think about in this particular story. So that's where we're seeing off of this. I think we got to get into the news. We got to get in and see what's going on with this. Let's go over checking with the live chat here and see what we've got going on. I'm going to check over with the Zoom call and see if I have a co-hostess here or not. Does not appear that I do. I don't have a question to admit somebody into the waiting room. So we'll assess the situation as we go on here. I said that I would be patient as we went along with the election season, and I do hope to keep with that promise, but I think we do need to take some time and assess the situation we have going on here. It looks like Ron Helton is in here chatting with himself at this point. He's got the AOC sticker up here, and he says, end the drug war, problem solved. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Go ahead and end that drug war. And you're going to see a lot of this go away, and you're going to see a lot of the pricing of drugs go down too, honestly. That's one thing to keep in mind when we go into this. You are going to see a lot of the pricing of drugs go down if we end the drug war, because a part of the reason that the cost of drugs is so high is that drug dealers, the people who are putting this out, are taking some of the risk upon themselves in order to take care of the drugs. In order to get the drugs to you, there is a risk involved. So part of the cost, it goes into the risk. So that's definitely something to think about with that. Ron Helton says the gun belonged to her boyfriend. Did she even know how to shoot a gun? Maybe he claimed that she fired the gun to protect himself. Yeah, there are a couple different ways that could go. And yeah, he could be doing that too. But the other theory I came up with this morning was the fact, and I came up with this last night when I read this, was the fact that he possibly, and I was talking with Sewell over in the Generational Gap Discord about this, it's possible that it's very possible he told the truth first and then realized that he's going to get all kinds of political favors given towards him and possibly get off on the crime if it turns out that an unarmed, uninvolved black woman was shot by murderous police officers. That is something you've got to think about with this as well. But, I mean, God forbid a CNN or a Fox even reports that little detail that the Daily Mail put out. Ron says the gun belonged to her boy. She was already dead, so saying that she shot would spare him trouble, so he lied. Maybe. No, the boyfriend was lying. He was afraid he would go to jail for shooting a cop. Nobody pays a $12 million settlement unless there was some wrong action on their part. Well, there might have been some political pressure that went along with that, too. That's something else you have to keep in mind with this, is that there is tremendous political pressure to come up with a certain outcome from this. Simple gunpowder residue test would show where she fired a gun. I bet you they performed this test on her body. That could be. That definitely could be. But it definitely throws a different wrench and a different perspective into this. And like I said, we are never going to know what happened with this, what actually happened. Only one person in the world, let me rephrase that, because everybody else is going to be up on speculation. Only one person in the world knows who fired that gun. There's only one person, and that is Kenneth Walker. So we're at his mercy as to whether or not we figure out what happened with this. So, we shall see. All right, we've got some news to get to this week, though, because there has been a shit show off of this. So, Business Insider tells me that Donald Trump's drive-by stunt was... Oh, this isn't the one that I wanted. All right. We're going to wait on this one then. So, this week, Donald Trump, it was announced that he came out with the announcement himself. He put it out on Twitter and said that he has the coronavirus. Now, this has been quite the mess from beginning to end with the fact that they're saying that he has the coronavirus. He has come out at points, and now he went back to Walter Reed Medical Hospital this past weekend, but it's just been a mess up and down, top to bottom from this. And I read a lot of really, really good articles over what happened between Friday and Monday's Contemporary because, well, first off, the big players that you would know and come to expect and come to love that would come out and say that, oh, well, yes, this is what happened. The big players are first off coming out and saying, oh, yeah, well, I hope that he dies, and I hope that this is definitely I hope. Oh, excuse me. A lot of people are out there saying that they hope that he dies. A lot of people saying that this is karmic poetic justice. A lot of people are saying that they wish that he has a long recovery. That, of course, came from Michael Che and all the likes over at Saturday Night Live. The Weekend Update was having a fine time ripping on the president. But the problem with this, and the problem with everything that we're seeing with this right now, is the fact that he was going to get it at some point. Trump is going out and he's doing rallies. He's going out into the world. He does have to deal with other people. And this is something that we need to come to terms with and come to accept as we're coming up into the world and we're doing all of this right now, is the fact that we can't just bunker up and sit into our apartments. This isn't China. The government can't come and weld us into our apartments. So we're sitting at a point where we can't do any of this. China, yes, they'll go back and weld you into your apartment and then come back after you've starved to death and cut you back out of there and do the autopsy and show that you've got the coronavirus. So this was going to come around and it was going to happen at some point. It absolutely was. So he went into Walter Reed. He went in and got his, he was on oxygen, I think, for a little while. They reported over the weekend, but the reports came out. He was supposed to be out today. I have not heard any confirmation as to whether or not he was able to get out of the hospital yet today. So that's going to be something I'm going to be looking for and probably report on Contemporary in the morning, is whether or not he got out of the hospital. But he was in good spirits. He was a little bit rough and going for a couple days, but he appears that he's in good spirits right now. Looks like he's out there. Elaine actually earlier on in the day retweeted a screenshot of Trump's timeline showing that he is out back with his caps lock key, back in all caps, tweeting about all the things that he wants to do, improve the economy, vote, end the riots, vote, all kinds of fun stuff like that. He's back up in good spirits. He's back up being regular old Trump left and right. Some of the weird things that came out about this, one newscaster this morning that I read pointed out that, oh, well, he got medevaced over to Walter Reed. Well, that's not actually true. He didn't get medevaced over there. He got up on his own free will, under his own power, got up onto Marine One, and they took Marine One over to get to Walter Reed because it was the quickest and most direct way to get there, especially for the president, who has a private helicopter standing by for him at a moment's notice to do so. So, to go along with this, now, the timeline off of this is a little bit sketchy, and nobody really knows where all of this came from the beginning. Turns out that when they were coming back from the debates, Hope Hicks was feeling sick. She quarantined on Air Force One. She had been traveling with Trump, so she got onto Air Force One and went into self-quarantine on the airplane. At which point she got tested right away, and Donald Trump and Melania got tested immediately as well. As soon as they found out that any of this was happening, they went out and got tested. So Hope Hicks tested positive, and then Donald and Melania tested positive as well. And now it turns out that several people from the Amy Coney Barrett introduction also tested positive, which I'm willing to guess, just based on the timeline of all of this and when they got tested, because they apparently both tested negative before the debate. So we've got a couple days of incubation period, and then the debate, and then another couple days of incubation period. That's probably when they first showed symptoms and they first decided that it was out there. So yeah, he went out and he got tested. I mean, the guy's getting tested constantly, and he has tested positive at this point. Biden tested negative, which was probably a good thing because this would probably kill Biden. He has got so many other problems. He's had an aneurysm. He's got breathing problems. He has cognitive decline. At his age and in his health condition, there's no way that he's getting out of this. And I wouldn't wish death on anybody. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Biden has tested negative. Several members of the Senate Judiciary Committee have tested positive. Several other senators have tested positive. Chris Christie has tested positive. Melania has tested positive. So there are positive tests all around with this, all the way around for all kinds of people. But it is what it is. Everybody was going to get this at some point. And a lot of us have already had it. Now, obviously we know that Trump hasn't had it before and he has it now because he's positive for it now. And he was getting tested constantly for this. Like, that's all they were doing was sitting around and testing for this. So now a lot of us aren't getting tested. I've never been tested, but I'm pretty positive that I had this way back before the panic set in, because just looking at the symptoms and looking how sick that I got in February, for about 3 to 5 days, I was coughing all the time, which I attributed to being an ex-smoker, which I've been able to clear up for a little bit. I was lethargic all the time. I had no energy for almost 2 weeks. It wound up being at one point. So I'm pretty sure that I had this already. And a lot of us, I think, have. If this is really as spreadable as people say that it is, then a lot of us have had this already. So there were other waves that were made in this as well. Trump yesterday decided that he wanted to go out and show everybody that he was in good spirits and piss off everybody who was against him at one point off of this. So I got the picture up here. Let me get that queued up for you guys. He decided that it was time to go and take a little ride and show everybody that he was doing okay. Where's my picture? There it is. So that looked like this. Hold on. Try that again. We'll make this look at least professional. If I'm not going to have a guest today, we'll at least make this look like I do kind of somewhat care what's going on with this. He looked like this, waving out of the back. And, of course, the big thing that went along with this was the fact that now everybody is running out and saying, well, he took the time and he put every Secret Service agent at risk. Everybody who was involved with this is at risk at this point, just to go out and make a photo op. Dude, fuck you. That's all that I have to say about that. Because, well, first off, he didn't put any of his supporters at risk. That much I can tell you right off. He's got the mask. And yes, he is within 6 feet of the other Secret Service agents. Now, the big thing to remember off of this is that there is protocol in place for this. I'm sure that Donald Trump, because I know that he's got cars. I watched him buy a car on Top Gear a few years ago when everybody still liked him in the world. Adam and Rutledge and Tanner each took a car that they tried to sell to the guy. They didn't know who it was going to be, but they each took a car that they were going to try to sell to the guy. And he bought it right up on screen. But I mean, he could have easily got off into his own Bentley, which I'm sure is probably armored as well, and drove around and waved to everybody. But you don't have agency as the president. You don't get to make those kinds of decisions. But of course, everybody else has to have something to be angry about on top of all this. They've got to find something to be mad about. So, and I don't think that he put anybody at risk with this. I'm sure that enough precautions were taken and there was enough to go around. Now, once again, this is a hermetically sealed thing. I mean, this car can take a rocket blast at full strength and drive away from it. They put a lot of thought into how this thing works. But of course, the mainstream media's got to have all kinds of stuff to get angry about because that is what they do. Now, we will see probably tomorrow whether or not he was able to get out of the hospital and start to return to duty. So, and I do hope the best for him. I know that Ilhan Omar was pretty pissed with Biden over all this because he pulled down some of his negative ads. For all the nasty stuff that's been said about Trump on the campaign trail from the Biden camp, from all the primary opponents that he had, from a lot of people that are out on the campaign trail right now, Biden has been a class act through all of this. Biden has been a real classy guy through all of this. And that did not sit well with our Minnesota congresswoman who accosted Joe Biden for the fact that he was classy about this, saying, Donald Trump would not do the same for you. So we're seeing a lot of fun stuff from this. What do we got going on in the chat here? We got a bunch of stuff going on with this. Hi, guys. Let's see. Free Please Tennessee says, end the drug war today. Watch America heal. Mad love and prayers from Tennessee. Thank you. Ron says, well, I don't have the police reports, but they did arrest the boyfriend, and you can bet they did a gunpowder residue test on him. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to sit down and listen to all 15 hours of that grand jury testimony. I might see if I can pull it off on podcast form somewhere and do it up at double speed so I can hear everything that went along with that. But I would love to know what determining factors went through. And I know that grand jury testimonies are supposed to be secret. That's a big part of the justice system we have going on today. But considering that the officers were acquitted and the fact that it's already out there, I mean, why not if it's already out there? I can't go back and make it unleaked, I guess. You can't do that. So, we'll see. They locked him up. Hi, free please. Bullshit, lies, and manipulation, BLM. Yeah. Ron says, I guess the media is not covering any of the rampant outbreaks with the protesters because there's nothing in the media about that. Yeah, no, and the contact tracing, you're not allowed to ask if you've been to a protest or not. You're not allowed to ask you're allowed to ask them if they went to the grocery store, if you went to the bank, or who you've been in contact with, but you're not allowed to ask people on a contact trace whether or not they went to a protest. So something to keep in mind. Let's see. I think the virus was released for separate strains in less than a year. When it takes a year for one mutation of this type of virus, well, yes and no. I see some evidence for that. I see some evidence against it. It's another one of those things that we're not going to know. We can sit and speculate and armchair quarterback forever on this, but we're not going to know it for sure. See, PM me or nachos. I've seen you in here before, actually. That's a cool name. I like that. I think I had it in December, and I still went to work, but I felt like hot trash. Yeah, my dad had it, I think, before I did, too. And, I mean, my dad was an ex-smoker, too. So he's got that lingering cough all the time. But, you know, right back in towards the beginning of the year, I think it was February or March himself, where he was coughing and hacking to a point, real low energy, and was coughing up blood at one point. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive he had it. But they had said, because he went to the doctor. My dad never goes to the doctor, but that one got him to the point where he had to go to the doctor, and they said a viral infection that they couldn't identify. And then in March, we're seeing all this bullshit everywhere. So, yeah, there's a good possibility. And I know that a lot of the things that we hear about now is that there was a flu strain this year that was extra severe back in this past winter. So, a lot of things to think about, and I don't think that the first case was in March, like the mainstream media tried to tell us. I definitely don't. Let's see. I did piss them off so bad. And then he's got an emote that I can't see. Can I see that over here? Maybe. Oh, we've got an emote over there. Yeah, I can see it because I've got DLive up on my cell phone over here as a monitor. But when I'm sitting in the live chat, you guys can't see what I see, but it just says DLive LOL. Nephilim Ninja says, hi, all the mutation rate is for different viruses. Ron says, I had it in the middle of February. My insurance agent had it the 1st of February. Several others told me they thought they had it as well. So this is my very first time on DLive. Okay. I've seen your name in here before, but I didn't know that I've seen PM me or nachos before. It might have been over on YouTube or... No, I think you're on Twitch. I think I've seen you on Twitch before. That's why. But I recognize the name. Yeah, DLive rocks. DLive is an awesome platform, and I hope you guys stick around for that. And I hope you guys give a bunch of stickers out so PM me or nachos can go and steal them and build his own sticker library. Because that's always a fun thing to do is throw stickers. Ron says, well, this is the virus from hell. India, Iran, China all had different variations. Nephilim Ninja says, yeah, my son was talking about everyone coofing at school before all this. Ron says it also has a filter system which should capture a lot of the particulates. Yeah, and plus that cloth mask that works perfectly for everything. And the thing is I guess the CDC came out and said, well, you shouldn't be wearing a gator-style mask because the gator-style mask that's even worse than everything because it aerosolizes everything and blah, 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 blah. Nobody said a word to me about my gator-style mask, which I think you guys saw on the Ed Talk I did last week, and I'm going to try and do that again at some point, too. I think I'm going to try and do that next week, and I reached out to Fritzcast, and I think he can do it. So I'm going to get 3 other people together, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to do another roundtable like that, because that was so much fun. But yes, I revealed my "Don't tread on me" Gator-style mask, that's because I love irony. And Governor Evers having the mask order is, by definition, treading on me. So, that was cool. All right. We got to, let's see, PM me, you're not Joe, says I'm on Twitch. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I knew I'd seen your name before. But yes, you are a Twitch fan. So thanks for coming back by and checking us out over on DLive. That's really awesome. Hope you stick around for a little bit more. All right. Let's keep going into the news because we've got some more stuff to do. I think the battery's dying on my mouse too. This mouse is a piece of shit. I hate to say this. Going to get off track on this one here, but yeah, I got a new wireless mouse because the Logitech one that I've had for 5 years bought the farm earlier on this year, and the one that I replaced it with is a gigantic piece of shit. And it goes through. I changed the batteries once in 5 years on my Logitech one. This one, I'm doing it every 3 weeks. Anyway, that's a little behind the scenes stuff that we don't have to worry about with this. Let's keep going. All right. So, in the midst of all of this as well, shortly after the debate, Kayleigh McEnany was having a press conference. This was actually something that I had to talk about after we talked about Trump having the coup. So Kayleigh McEnany had a press conference shortly after the debate, talking about some of the topics that were going along with the debate and some of the things that were talked about with this. A lot of the reporters in there were making fun of Trump, and a lot of them were badgering her to no end. So I've got a couple of pieces of video for this. Let's see. I've got one piece of video for this. I thought I had two. All right. I've got one piece of video for this, and one of the big things was, I know Trump had said while he was in the debate that they found a bunch of ballots in a ditch and another bunch of ballots in a river. So one of the reporters had to come up and try to figure out where the river was. Let's have a listen and see what that sounded like. Maybe if I can get this piece of crap mouse to work.
The president has criticized the mail-in voting process quite a bit over the last few weeks. The other day he said they found a lot of ballots in a river. Who is they?
What the president was referring to are something that we've seen just in the last 7 days, where in Wisconsin there were trails of May ending up in a ditch. That's, I believe, the specific he was referring to, and that included absentee ballots.
We're specifically, in this particular statement, though, who is they that found those ballots, and where is this river anywhere in this country?
The local authorities. It was a ditch in Wisconsin that they were found, and I can get the article to your inbox if you'd like. And beyond that,
if he misspoke, that's fine.
No,
so
that's I believe
he meant
that's what the president was referring
to.
And you're missing the forest for the trees here. The point is,
no, I cover the news, and I like to report accurately in the news. And when the president says they found a lot of ballots in a river, I simply want to know where the river is.
No, you simply want to ignore the fact of the matter. Again,
I got asked so many questions about this, and my Fox affiliates, where is this river? And I can't give them an accurate information, and that's why I'm asking you.
This is what is happening here. You are ignoring the problem here, which is last week, in Pennsylvania, you had ballots found in a ditch. That is a fact. In Wisconsin, 7 military ballots, all marked for Trump, were found cast aside. There are problems with mass mail-in voting. I actually don't understand the lack of journalistic curiosity and reporting on this. There used to be curiosity. In fact, the Washington Post, before President Trump highlighted the problems with mail-in voting, they said the result was an unexpected stress test of mail balloting systems when this was tried, many of which were designed to handle only a small portion of the vote and are not ready to scale up in response to the pandemic. So the media once said mail-in voting is not ready to scale up in the middle of a pandemic. Now there's no journalistic curiosity when we're finding Trump ballots cast aside. There's no journalistic curiosity when 100,000
I'm asking you where the river is, and you can't give an
were sent out in Brooklyn.
If you say the president
they were inaccurate ballots, and then 100,000 more.
I just want to know where the river is.
And lack of journalistic curiosity.
I'm very curious. Where's the river?
Yes.
That's curiosity.
Kayleigh, Senator Tim Scott.
So that was that hot mess of a fucking press conference, which, my God, I can't believe the patience of this woman to come out and be able to do that. I would have dropped an F-bomb if I was the press secretary, which I know that I had mentioned over to the Already Conservative that if you guys can get me up to 2,000 YouTube subs by January 1st of 2022, I will run for president. The already conservative, the first thing when I mentioned that to him, said, "I want to be your press secretary." Which I kind of enjoy. I kind of enjoy the thought of that. Me going out, being president, and having the already conservative do what Kayleigh McEnany just did. I guarantee you wouldn't be able to put that up on Fox News, but... And that's one of the things that we're seeing from this is the fact that, I mean, Kayleigh is right. You are completely missing the forest for the trees off of this. We are finding ballots cast aside left and right. And they're all marked for the same person. We're not finding Biden ballots. And I don't think that's because nobody's voting for Biden. That would be a statistical impossibility for nobody to be voting for Biden. But we're finding all kinds of ballots out there that are Trump ballots that are in a ditch or in a waste paper basket. And yes, even a river. Now, that didn't happen in Wisconsin. That actually, I believe, was in Michigan. Oh, crap. Jim Jones is going to come over here and start asking me where the fuck the river is. Holy fuck. I just screwed myself. But that's not, I mean, the point of where the river is not the point of all this right now. Not something to see in a press briefing like this. The point of what Jim Jones was saying was trying to distract from the fact. Yes, a simple Google search off of this, I could probably get up and do it right now, actually. Just a simple Google search and say, river where, oh, I'm caps locked, Trump ballots. Maybe I shouldn't do a Google search because that's probably where found. Because that is probably going to be something that's going to get suppressed. Yeah, oh yeah. No, I've got a wall of MSNBC. Oh, Trump lied that there was no river. We can't tell him the river. But it doesn't matter whether it's a ditch, whether it's a river, whether it's a lake, whether it's a dumpster, whether it's a waste paper basket, whether it's the shredder. None of that matters. What matters is the fact that people are looking at these absentee ballots saying, oh, well, this guy didn't vote for who I like. Fuck that shit. And tossing it out. That is the problem with this. Not where the river is. And you can better bet that if these were Biden ballots, they'd be singing a different tune on this completely. They would be singing something completely different on all of this. If these were Biden ballots, or if these were anything other than Trump ballots, they would be singing a completely different tune off of this. So definitely something to look forward to off of this. And, I mean, there was other complete bullshit coming from this. They were relentless on this woman through this. I think we got 2 video clips when I was on Contemporary. And, I mean, they sit back and they try to trip this woman up, and she just handles them through. I used to think that Sarah Huckabee Sanders was my spirit animal because they would badger her the same way that they badger McEnany, and she would just, with that calm, deadpan expression, throw them off one by one. But, I mean, Kayleigh's got the passion to go with it. She can do the exact same thing Sanders did, but with a little bit of passion and fire behind her voice. Kayleigh McEnany might actually be my spirit animal at this point, because that's how I want to talk to reporters, is the way that she does. So definitely some good stuff to go on with that. Let's, what else do we have for this one here? So, going back to the virus, because the press conference was outside of the virus, I do want to talk just a little bit about some of the ideas that we've had and some of the things that have come up from this. Because one of the big things that was discussed was what does happen 2 weeks out from an election, 3 weeks out from an election, if Trump dies, if he doesn't make it through all of this. And this has been a question that's actually been going through my mind for quite a while. This has been well researched. This has been well covered. If you are going to run one of the 2 major political parties in this country, you have to have a contingency plan in place for something like this. It behooves you to do so. You have no choice but to have that contingency plan, especially if you are going to run an 80-year-old person in the office. And that's what they're doing with Biden. I mean, he's not 80 yet, but he's close enough that you can just start calling him an 80-year-old person. And Sanders, who is, I think, older than Biden. Who's older, Sanders or Biden? I know Biden is 78. How old is Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders' age. 79. He was born on September 8th of 1941. So he is 2 years older than Biden. So he is, by all intents and purposes, 80 years old. And then, of course, down in the chain of command, if they can't figure this out and the Speaker of the House has to become president, well, there's 80-year-old Nancy Pelosi as the President of the United States. So they definitely do have contingency plans in place for all this. You would be stupid not to have a contingency plan if all of your candidates are over the age of 70 years old. Now, through the rest of the elections, or through the rest of the cycle, Mike Pence would obviously assume the presidency. I'm sure that Ronna McDaniel, who also came down with the coronavirus, has somebody sitting in place ready to go to switch out as the candidate. Now, what that would do to the election, I don't know, because they would have to stop and reprint every ballot in the United States because you wouldn't be voting for Donald Trump anymore at this point. This would be chaos if Trump died right now. And if Biden died right now, if he keeled over right now, it would be the same thing. It would be absolute chaos in this country because the Supreme Court would be going nuts trying to see what it is that they have to do, whether or not the ballots are valid. This is an election experiment that I don't ever want to see. But they do have a contingency plan in place as to what to do about this because we're sitting at that point where we need to. I would say start running younger candidates, but that doesn't seem to be what anybody in the world is interested in. So, yeah. Definitely something to look for. Definitely something to look forward to. And, it's something we have to see. This country will go on. The fact that we have put so much dependence on who the president is in this country is a little bit scary to me, but this country will go on. It will move on if we don't have the presidency filled. All right, what do we got in the live chat here? Oh, did I get bumped off again? I hope not. Let's see. PM Me or Nacho says, poor Kaylee testing positive. Ron says she answered his question about the river at the very beginning, but he is a pedantic piece of shit. Yeah, that's actually fact check true. Nephilim says, my chat says no connection. This is a test. What the? That's weird because I have connection over here. I'm not sure. I don't know if I got bumped off about YouTube or not. I might have actually. Let me look at DLive here for a second because that will tell me in a second if I got bumped off or not. No, I didn't get bumped off according to Discord, not DLive, because I would have set up another video. I got bumped off of a contemporary this morning because of my crappy Spectrum Oh yeah, this is going to be a fun one after 2 hours of trying to talk to myself for this one. With my crappy Spectrum internet, I got bumped off this morning, and I hope I don't get bumped off in the mid-episode of this one because that's definitely going to be something to see. Neff, I'm seeing your messages, Neff, so that's at least a good thing. I don't know what's happening with you, but I am seeing your messages. The ditch incident was in Pennsylvania, Ron says. I bet it's because she is supportive of white supremes. Thank you for that, Neff. Because maybe the live chat will stay in here at some point. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, like if you go back and look at some of my videos, but about half of my videos have the live chat turned off. And I don't know why, and it pisses me off because sometimes if I forget to write your names down after doing the show, doing Contemporary in the morning, I can't go back and look through the YouTube chat again because they cut it off. They deleted it. Holy shit. I got an injet. Wow. Who did that? Galt? Galt, you rock, dude. Okay. I've got to find something to do special for you, Galt. Thank you for that. That rocked. And once again, I can't see the donations up here, but wow. Wow. And Ron, thanks for bringing that up to my attention. What's the name of the ditch? Gotcha. I love that, Nephilim. Thank you. Ron says one of the Biden's campaign people in Texas was caught harvesting ballots. That's why Abbott's cut down the number of drop-off points. Interesting. And yeah, we talked last week about the Veritas video. We talked about that on both shows, actually, last week. The Veritas video where Ilhan's campaign got caught with all that, too. That is a mess in and of itself. Let's see. Ron says one of Biden's campaign... Oh, I read that one already. There is an attempt to stuff the ballot box. They know Biden is too weak to win. Hey, come on, man. You know, I'll do push-up contests with you if you think I'm weak. It's not likely all the clones will die of COVID-19. It seems fine, but it's saying no connection. I don't know. Well, I mean, as long as you're seeing me, that's what I'm interested in. I know that you'll go back on the video afterwards and put a comment in there. You're really good about that if you watch the video later. And by the way, thanks for the love in Steven's Discord, too. I saw that. I see stuff, Nephilim. I see stuff. Galt says, keep speaking the truth and we are square. Well, thank you once again. That is... Thank you. I hope that you pop into the Discord at some point after this too, so I can actually thank you for this in person. By the way, you guys, keep in mind that there is a link on all the platforms, and I checked it, for you to go down and hit the Discord. And there's a PayPal link in there too. All the funds that come out of the PayPal are going into the new computer, because the old HP has done a very, very admirable job at this point. But it's time. It's time to actually build something. And I've got a wish list built for what I'm going to do. It's going to be a desktop this time, but I'm sitting at thinking probably about $1,000 by the time it's all said and done. So hopefully we'll get some cash in there and get going with that. But thanks, guys. Let's keep going here because we've got some other stuff to get to. Let's talk about this debate, because that was crazy. And I thought, way back in the beginning of the week, I actually thought that was going to be the lead story this week, was the debate. I thought for sure that's what we were going to be doing, was just 2 hours of debate review. I thought I was going to have a co-host on the other side of the screen, but I thought we were going to be doing 2 hours of debate review. And that didn't wind up being what happened, but we do still have to talk about what went on with this and what this means going forward. Now, as of right now with the COVID, it is not certain whether or not we are going to have a second debate. I think we're going to have a second debate. I really do, but it is not certain at this point. We will definitely sit and wait and see whether we see that next debate. We had the debate this past Tuesday. It was just about as much of a shit show as you thought it was going to be. For the most part, it was... Oh, I didn't load the picture. I really wanted to load the picture. I've been throwing the picture of Herbert from Family Guy and the old Nazi over on Family Guy from the beginning of their fight, and that was what this debate was Herbert and the old Nazi going back and forth with each other. I will let you decide who was Herbert and who was the old Nazi. I'll give you a hint. Only one of them sniffs kids. But yes, there was two ancient septuagenarian men yelling and screaming back and forth at each other. So I've got some highlights for this. Let's watch some of this video, because that's gonna tell us everything that we need to know about this. Let me get that queued up. I've got a couple pieces here. No, not that one. That's the cringy ass Lori Lightfoot video. So Biden was trying to out-Trump Trump on this one here, and he got to the point. You could tell he was getting pissed off with this. You could definitely tell that he was getting pissed off and angry about all this. Let's listen to what Biden had to say. Oh, that's not how I do that.
Wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, I have one final question for you.
Sure.
Mr. Vice President, if Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unpresidential.
court.
We have
He's
ended.
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than...
So, and that's, I mean, that zinger at the end. Well, they both try to throw a zinger into the end of this, but I mean, Trump was right on this one. Biden has been in government for 47 years, and he's got nothing done. Now, one of the biggest problems with this, there were 2 big problems with this debate, and both of them involved basically running cover for Joe Biden. Now, we looked at it, first off, we saw right at the end of this video, Biden getting his last little quip, just keep yapping, man. Keep yapping. And then Chris Wallace, when Trump was going in and pressing the effort. Will you pack the Supreme Court? Chris Wallace, well, we're done with this segment now, so we're going to move on to the next thing, and we're gonna do something else. Because that's something else for us to do, and we don't want to talk about this segment anymore. And he did that throughout the entire debate. Joe Biden was asked a lot of very serious questions that he refused to answer, especially he wouldn't call out Antifa. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here, but this court packing thing. And Wallace sat and ran cover for him for the entire debate. That's all that he did, was sat and ran cover for him. You know, if I'm not going to have Elaine here, I'm going to use a different scene for this. Give me 1 second. All right, hold on. I got to pop off studio mode for this. All right, sorry about that. So, I mean, holy crap, that's choppy. Yeah, we're going to go back to the other one. I'm sorry. Sorry, trying to do some experimentation as we go along here, but yeah, that's right. OBS is not playing nice with my webcam anymore. So, I mean, Wallace did sit back and run interference throughout this entire thing. And that's part of the problem that we have with this. We don't know where Biden was going to sit on some of this stuff. Joe Biden needs to answer the question of whether or not he's going to pack the court. But he won't do it. And there's a good reason that he won't do it because, and he's absolutely right on this, Biden is trying to keep Trump on the defensive. That's the best thing that he can do right now, is trying to make this election a referendum on Trump. If he comes out and does something controversial, like trying to make this about the court packing, then he's on defense, because that, I think, is going to be an unpopular opinion among American people. It was unpopular when Roosevelt did it, and I think it's going to be unpopular again. Now, yes, it's going to get that nice liberal majority that the progressives want, but the American people see what goes on with the Supreme Court and the fact that they're sitting back and legislating from the bench. They're not actually making laws. They're making legislation from 9 unelected justices. That's been one of the big things that came out of this particular administration. So we see the levers of government working. Be honest, before Trump, did we see the hearings? I mean, they were out there for us to see, but did people actually go out and try to have a look and watch the hearings? They didn't. They didn't try to watch the hearings. They didn't know. They just all of a sudden wake up and said, oh, well, Elena Kagan's now on the Supreme Court. Huh, I wonder how that happened. I know the birth of the political wonks was starting to come off and some of the stuff was starting to become available, but that was still back in the era of, I mean, going back to Clinton, going back to W, going back to HW for that matter, going back even to Reagan. That was at the point where the majority of people were going to work at 9 to 5 at the same time when they were doing these hearings. Now, especially under COVID, but even before that. Not only are we sitting here in a position where a lot of people are off work or out of work because of the coronavirus, because their state and local governments shut them down so they can't go back and forth to work. But, I mean, I sat and watched every second of the Kavanaugh hearings. I sat looking at this very screen I'm sitting at and looking at right now and watched every second of the Kavanaugh hearings because at the time I was working second shift. There is a paradigm shift. We're running more around the clock in this country, so people have the opportunity to sit down and watch some of these things, to enjoy some of this stuff. People have the opportunity to come back and see what's going on in their country. So we're getting time to sit down and watch some of this. Definitely something to look for, something good that came out of even the Obama administration, because people were doing that at that time too. They were taking either whatever job they could get, which was part-time, which was usually gas station second shift, restaurant second shift, third shift jobs, graveyard shift jobs, jobs that they wouldn't necessarily want to have under W or under Clinton. But then they were sitting back and watching the news, watching some of these hearings coming back out of this. So going back onto the debate, no. Going back onto that, no, people are interested in what this is. And I do think that packing the court is going to be very unpopular with the people. And I think that Biden sitting up there, that's why he doesn't want to answer the question. And if he says yes, he loses the moderates. He loses the 60-somethings, the 70-somethings that are going to vote for him and be his base. And if he says no, I'm not going to pack the court, then he loses the progressives. And he did lose the progressives at another point when he said he doesn't stand up for the Green New Deal. Let's see what we've got here. Eric Dolly says hi. Hi, Eric Dolly. How we doing? Ron said hi back to him as well. Nephilim says, is it official that it requires an amendment to change the number of Supreme Court justices? That is up in the air right now. It is possible that they could do it through legislation, but I think it would get challenged, which means that it would go to the Supreme Court. I think it would get overturned by the Supreme Court. I think that's possible. But yes, that would move up to an amendment. That's a very gray area. So that's something to look forward to into this. I think it would take an amendment to limit the number of justices, but it might just be able to go through Congress. Nate Smokes 1776, yo, you based. Now, you would have to be the judge of that. I'm not going to judge myself as to whether or not I'm based, because that would be very, very unbased of me to do so. Private OGITH. Donald Trump should Google up the name of OGITH to see a bunch of funny videos that he would like. So, okay. I'm not going to Google it up, but I will look at it. Thank you, Private, for that. Yeah, that's going back into what we're saying with this, though. We saw a lot of this. We saw it with the Antifa thing, but of course, Mr. Personality over there on the other side of the stage cannot keep his mouth shut for long enough to let any of that happen, because he has to come up and be the center of attention. And Wallace running interference for that too. Let's actually have a listen to that and see what that turned up sounding like.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen?
I want to stop there for just a second, point out what Chris Wallace said with that, because it's very, very important to what we're seeing from this. Chris Wallace could have stopped at white supremacist. He very well could have. But he didn't. And that's an important part of this step that I don't think a lot of people noticed when they were talking about this, when they were bringing this up and bringing this particular clip up. Chris Wallace said, and we'll listen to it again just to make sure that we caught this.
Important Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups
Sure.
and to say that
White supremacist and militia groups. This was not an accident. In fact, this was done very, very much on purpose. Think about who is in a militia group. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton went back and said back in 2016 that she totally condemned the KKK, the white supremacists, and she didn't want any of their votes. She didn't want David Duke's support. She didn't want any support of people like that. And they didn't vote for her. I'm sorry to tell you this right now, but white supremacists are more aligned with Democrat ideals right now than they are with Republican ideals. In fact, I mean, they've always been, because they were basically an extension. They were a shock group for the Democrat Party when they were formed. This whole Southern strategy, party switching bullshit aside. But who's in militia groups? Who are militia groups? Who do you normally see with a flag like that sitting on the back of their pickup truck or sitting behind them talking into a microphone? Who's normally doing that? And of course, Trump came up and said, "Oh, sure. But that question was specifically put in there and worded like that. This is in my opinion. I can't verify this. I wasn't in the writing room for Fox. But that question was specifically put in there and worded like that to try and put a wedge between the fragile relationship between Trump and the NRA types, the militia types, the two-way advocate types, the 3%er types. And he's already sitting on shaky ground. He is absolutely already sitting on shaky ground with them because of the bump stock ban and because of other expanded legislation that he suggested. And talking about red flag laws, he's already on shaky ground with this. That was put in there for a reason, and I don't think anybody else caught that. But let's finish listening to this
they
clip.
need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and
And then, of course, now we're sitting up here and we're on the Proud Boys controversy because that was what Biden had to bring up and talk about. Biden was on script for all of this stuff, and I don't know if he's got an earpiece in. I know that they pretty much, for the most part, pull him from the left side of his head, as what we're seeing. Is that his left or his right? Yeah, that's the left side. So we're only seeing the left side of his head for the most part, and I noticed that through the debates too. We didn't really see the right side of Biden's head for all of this. So we can't go back and look and see if he does have the earpiece in. But yeah, he was awfully quick with that name Proud Boys. And I don't know. I know that he did the press conference afterwards and he mentioned the fact that he had no idea who the hell the Proud Boys were. I don't know if he did or if Biden did. I don't know if that was just something that popped up. I don't know if you guys saw the ridiculousness going on around Twitter too, because now people are trying to make Proud Boys back into a gay thing, which honestly, when I first heard about the Proud Boys, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was some gay pride group. I didn't think that it was actually going to wind up being MGTOWs or MGTOW adjacents, as it's turned out to be. But now we're sitting back here, and they're doing everything they can to try and keep Trump on the defensive. And he's doing everything he can to try and turn out and put Biden on the offensive. And Biden needs to be on the defensive on this. He absolutely needs to be on the defensive for this because he is the one. I mean, his vice presidential candidate is the one that helped set up the Minnesota Freedom Fund and several other funds around this country to pull people back out of jail on bail so they can either go back out and keep rioting or skip their trials altogether. Let's finish this one up.
And right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his.
It's an idea.
I did like the comment that came back out of this here is that an idea has never hit a guy on the back of the head with a bat. Or a bike lock, for that matter. Remember that story? The bike lock professor? No, because they didn't go anywhere with that. That didn't hit the mainstream news. Only the alt media know about that. The only thing that the mainstream will tell you about is Heather Heyer. He hit that girl with his Dodge Charger. He was running away from a guy that was swinging a fucking bike lock at him. There's a lot more to that story, too.
FBI, his FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
We're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
That hits you over the head. That's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
you have repeated.
And there he goes again, right at the end of that. This was something that actually needs to be addressed. And yes, we can sit back and have the conversation about white supremacist groups. You know, there weren't actually very fine people on both sides. We can sit back and have this conversation, but there's Chris Wallace running in like the white knight at the end of this. Well, we're going to move on to the next topic here because we can't keep going on this topic anymore. We actually have to go off and talk about more stuff. So I'm not going to let you have this argument anymore. I need to run cover for Biden. Biden gave Chris Wallace a fucking handy for all the cover that he ran for him. So that was debate performance. What do we got over in the live chat here? Ron Helton says, I caught it and pointed out that there was no way to answer that question in the affirmative. Besides, all these jackasses know Trump has repeatedly condemned hate groups and racism. Yeah, I mean, let's go back to that video here and let's go right back to the beginning. Let me get the interact screen back up so I can play it again. Right back to the beginning.
Repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Sure.
And
did you hear that? It was pretty quiet.
Supremacists and militia groups.
Sure.
And
are you willing to call out and condemn white supremacists and militia groups? Sure. Give me a name. Sure. So yeah, I mean, he called it out right there, but it wasn't good enough for him. He didn't do it fast enough. He didn't go quick enough. He didn't do it enough times. Meanwhile, once again, Biden can't come out and say, I condemn Antifa. He comes out and says, that's an idea, not an organization. Your own FBI director said that. Let's see. Nephilim Ninja says, will J. Edgar denounce baby rapists and truck drivers? Do you? Well, it would denounce the baby rapists, including the one that Kamala Harris bailed out of jail over in Minnesota. I will absolutely condemn them. And truckers, no, I can't do that. I can't do that because they are the lifeblood of this economy. But the baby rapists, no. To the wood chipper with you. Ron, you don't need to cheer him on. I always knew he hated truck drivers. Ron says Trump needs to stop talking out of his ass. Yeah, that's not going to happen. In any reality that we're sitting at right now, that's not going to happen. Trump is not going to stop talking out of his ass. Do you really think that he would do that? I'm sorry. I hate to laugh at you, Ron, but oh my God. No, Trump is not going to stop talking out of his ass. That's part of his charm, is the fact that he talks out of his ass. I mean, I'm not going to stop talking out of my ass. They just gave me a golden microphone so I could do it more effectively. The inclusion of militias pissed me off. The late night losers. Also, good evening, bitches. Is that Saint that I see? Because that's Saint's usual greeting. So I wonder if somebody has changed his name and if there may be a new show forming here. Saint, we need details. We definitely need details here. All right, we do have to keep going though. So what else do I have on the agenda? Well, we are only an hour and 11 into this. All right. So I was really, really hoping that Elaine was going to be here for this one because I know one of the big hashtags out there is hashtag let her speak. And I'm actually interested in letting Jorgensen speak. Speak her mind. Let's see what a third party can do up on a stage like this. And I really, because Elaine is Joe Jorgensen's social media director, I wanted to see, because of course she's going to have enough of a knowledge of Joe's personality to kind of see where this would go. I would really love to have an insider's take into what the debates would have looked like, even through all of the clusterfuck that we saw from this, if Dr. Jorgensen had been on the stage. That would have changed the entire dynamic of this. I don't know if she'd have been able to speak. I don't know if they would have just done nothing but talk over her. I don't know if Biden would have walked over and sniffed her on the hair. I don't know what any of this would have turned out to be if she'd have been allowed to be on the stage. I don't know if she is standing in a sigh of relief that she wasn't there because now the Donald has the Rona. I don't know what any of this is, but I would have loved to get an inside take on that. I would have absolutely loved to get an inside take. The takeaways from this, Ron is right. It's not necessarily that Trump needs to stop talking out of his ass, because that is a part of his charm, is the fact that he talks out of his ass in such a way, and he's unfiltered. So we get the chance to actually hear what it is that he has to say, instead of having it sanitized through Fox News, or through MSNBC, or through CNN, or any of that. That is part of the charm, is that we get it directly. Sometimes too directly. There are days that I wish that somebody would take his phone away from him and change his Twitter password and sign out. There are days that I wish for that. But a part of the charm is the fact that, as raw as it is, we hear it right away. And we saw that with the tweet storm that he put up, that Elaine was showing off over on her Twitter. Check out her Twitter. If you haven't already, it's linked in the description below. Go and check Elaine out. When she's here, she's great. And she's great over on Twitter, too. Like I said, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt through the rest of the election season, and we'll see if it changes there. But I know that this is their busy time. So I'm not going to be too mad at her for not being there, but I do wish that we could have got some of the takes up off of this. My big takeaway here is, well, first off, incumbents rarely win the first debate. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just that they're too comfortable. I don't know if it's the fact that their record is what's on display for everything, but incumbents rarely win the first debate. That's just statistical. I think Trump did okay with this. I know that they had the Telemundo poll out there that showed that 66% of Latinos thought that Trump won the debate. I don't think he was as terrible as a lot of people think that he was, but there were many, many, many opportunities throughout this entire debate for Biden just to hang himself with his own response. And of course, Trump had to get up and start talking. He took away a lot of the opportunity for Biden to hang himself with his own rope, to hoist himself as his own petard, to fall on his own sword, if you will. He had a lot of opportunity, and the Donald just kept talking. We didn't get any productive discussion done out of this. We didn't see any policy platforms. We didn't see a lot of this. It almost looked like a psychiatrist was working with Trump to try and figure out how do you get a person with Alzheimer's and late-stage dementia to spurg out. And that's what he was going for, was to try and get him to spurg out and say something stupid on the stage, which he was very close to on numerous occasions. Joe Biden says stupid shit. And he was very close to doing so on several occasions. Now, in the upcoming debates, if they do happen because of the coronavirus, they're talking about having the mic cut button. No, we don't need a mic cut button. Even as much of a shit show as this was, we need to not have a microphone cut button. because that's censorship. That is going to start showing clear bias too, because you know which microphone's going to get cut and which one isn't. You already know coming up which one is. So I'm looking forward to seeing another debate here. I know that the vice presidential debate is coming up on Wednesday. I am not going to stream that. I'm going to stream the second debate and the third debate. I know the R-rated conservative has agreed once again to come in and sit with me for the second debate. I want to get a couple more people for that, but I'm going to stream the second debate. I'm going to live tweet the vice presidential debate, which is going to come back to bite me in the ass because I'm sure that something really, really stupid is going to happen on the screen during the VP debate, and I'm just going to miss it off of there. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. I will see if I'm going to live stream that one or not. Maybe I'll pull something together on the last minute, but I know that the generational gap is going to be on their regular time at that time too, so maybe I'll just live tweet it and hang out in the generational gap live chat for that. That is their regular night. Actually, I think I'm going to do that, and then I'll just stream the second one. So hopefully we see off of this. Hopefully we get some more substance out of this and we actually get some conversation. I can't do another one like this, and that has been a big part of the problem too with all of this. My parents, as I've mentioned numerous times on this program, numerous times on this program, my parents are lifelong Democrats, never voted any different way in their entire lives, never even considered voting a different way in their entire lives. It's the union influence. Lifelong Democrats are good, Republicans only want to ship your dad's job overseas. That kind of thing. And my mom and I were talking, and even my dad is getting on board with this. My dad stayed with the Democrat line for a little bit longer than my mom did. But even my dad is in on this when he's coming out, and they're both pointing out the fact that none of the primary candidates and Biden himself have really put forward what it is that they want to do for the country. That's been one of the big frustrations out of this particular election cycle, is the fact that the Democrat platform is vote for me, I'm not Trump. Which blows the big one. I don't care for Andrew Yang and his UBI idea, but it was a fresh idea. It was something to discuss. He actually had a plan. It sucked and it was going to fall through at the moment's notice, but he had a plan of what he wanted to do for the American people. He was up on stage saying, vote for me, I want to do something for you. Tulsi Gabbard, as socialist and as Marxist as she is, had a plan for what she wanted to do to move the American people forward and end the endless foreign wars. We had very, very good ideas this election cycle. I cannot deny. I don't like any of the Marxism that's going through the Democrat Party right now, but I cannot deny for a second that there were actually good, fresh ideas coming up this time. And we narrowed it down to a doddering old 77-year-old man whose basic party platform is vote for me, I'm not Trump. That's where we've come to in this country, folks. All right, what do we got in here? The late night loser says, I am Saint and it's not official until my local job comes through. Good. A good deal. We'll talk about this a little bit. Nephilim says, the answer is too long. The American people would have forgotten the baby rape part. Yeah, okay. Spartan over there in the chat is a big UBI advocate. I don't understand how he squares the circle, but we've talked about this one before, him and I. We've had this conversation numerous times on Ed Talk, on Contemporary. Well, not on Contemporary because I don't read the live chat live on that, but I've seen his points. We've had the conversation before. I know he's a big UBI guy. I can't square the circle. I cannot, for the life of me, square the circle beyond that. But it was at least there to discuss. It was a new idea. It was a new way to try and move the American project forward. Like I said, it blew, but it was something new. It was something discussable. It was something for the American people. And yes, we have come down, we stepped down from all that talent that was up there. I mean, even Marianne Williamson, I think, was more talented than Joe Biden. And she was fucking nuts. And we've drawn ourselves down to Herbert the pervert and the old Nazi fighting on stage, yelling back and forth at each other. This is really the best that the Democrat Party thought they could bring forward. But then again, we move into possibly the tinfoil of this was nothing but a stand-in in an empty suit to make sure that Kamala Harris wins the presidency. There's always that possibility as well. Thank you guys for coming in here. So that was, wow, we burned through, just by myself, without any assistance, we burned through 80 minutes of this already. And I still have a couple other things to talk about. So, let's see, what do we have here? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the Melania tapes. Because that was, I mean, this is news to me at this point. Let me grab an article for this. Because I thought that Elaine was actually going to be introducing this. Because it was actually, I hadn't even heard about this until she texted me and said, hey, can we talk about this week? So let me actually get something to read from this. Because this will be my first time covering this. I didn't do it on Contemporary. Let's read from The Guardian, I think. Melania Trump tapes reveal complaints about Christmas and migrant children row. Melania Trump had a rough night on Thursday, testing positive for coronavirus like her husband, but also seeing the publication of a recorded conversation with a former friend in which she asked, who gives a fuck about Christmas? The First Lady also said the media should give her a fucking break over Donald Trump's widely condemned child separations policy at the border. That is nowhere near what came out of this tape. And I made the recording. Well, I didn't make the recording. I took a video of this and cut it down so we can actually hear what was said on the tape. But that was nowhere near what any of this was. So on Thursday, tape was leaked of Melania Trump talking about her Christmas decorations and the child border policy, which, I mean, I listened to the tape. I listened to it the first night that I heard about it. And then I went ahead and listened to it again today. And honestly, this gives me a lot more respect for Melania Trump. Now, the source that I did take is selectively edited, but he did a piss poor job of it. Because the guy that put it up there was also trying to slam on Melania for this. But honestly, the COVID diagnosis just completely swept this away. This was supposed to be an October surprise, and it just got completely swept away because nobody cares. I know they were coming out and trying to make it sound like Melania Trump doesn't care about Christmas. That's not what she was going to with this. Let's have a listen to what this sounded like. Where is it? There it is.
They say I'm complicit. I'm the same like him. I support him. I don't say enough. I don't do enough.
No,
where I am, I'm working like a my ass off.
I know.
That Christmas stuff that, who gives a about Christmas stuff and decoration, but I need to do it, right?
Yeah, but 100%. You have no choice.
And then I do it, and I say that I'm working on Christmas, planning for the Christmas, and they said, oh, what about the children, that they were separated? Give me a break. Where they were saying anything when Obama did that?
I know.
I cannot go. I was trying to get the kid reunited with the mom. I didn't have a chance. Needs to go through the process and through the law.
But here's my thing. Hear what you just said. But instead of that, if your messaging, you were so loved.
They would not do the story. We put it out. They would not do the story.
I'm telling you.
You would not believe it. They would not do the story because they would not do the story because they are against us because they're liberal media. Yeah, if I go to Fox, they will do the story. I don't want to go to Fox.
All right, so that is the Melania tape, or at least the selectively edited part. Now, there were, I think, a good 30 to 40 minutes of tape that was actually put out for this. But it's, first off, the thing that they were trying to get her on was the comment where she made at the end of, who gives a fuck about Christmas? No, Melania Trump was not talking about who cares about Christmas. Melania Trump was talking about the fact that in the middle of all of this, because this was happening when this tape was recorded, this was the time when they were also trying to throw the kids in cages narrative out there. They were throwing this narrative out there talking about the kids in cages while she was sitting up here, and she's expected. There are expectations of the First Lady to make the Christmas celebration, to make this all look good, to do the Rose Garden. These expectations are out there for the First Lady to do, but she's sitting out here, and she was a big advocate for trying to fix the border cages, and she's absolutely right in this. I don't know if the guy was trying to selectively edit this to try and make Melania look as bad as she possibly can, then he did a piss-ass poor job, because the big point in this was the fact that she pointed right out. Nobody said a word about this when it was Obama's kids in cages, when he was the one setting up these border camps that these kids had out there. Now, there was an extended cut that I listened to earlier on that pointed out the fact that she was up there saying. Now, that the extended cut that I listened to at that point didn't have anything about the Christmas side of that. That's why I chose this one, because this is the one that the media, for the little bit of time that they were freaking out about, the fact that she was dogging on Christmas. But she's right on this. Nobody said a word about the border camps when it was under Obama. In fact, the photo that set this whole border camp thing off came from 2014, when Barack Obama was safely and firmly nestled into the White House. This did nothing but make Melania Trump look good. And of course, well, who gives a fuck about Christmas? Well, yeah, there are border camps out there that she's trying to shut down, that she's trying to get these kids reunited with their parents. Why would we worry about an over-commercialized Hallmark holiday version of Christmas decorating? And she worked her ass off for these decorations. And that's all. And they were dogging on her for the decorations too, over all this. The worst part of this, and the fact that this came out, the part that just pisses me off about this so much, is the fact, and we go into this, we point this out. First ladies used to be off limits. Now, Hillary, of course, because she was a megalomaniac that was obsessed with the idea of becoming the president of the United States herself, injected herself into the eye. But first ladies, for the most part, should be off limits. Michelle, of course, herself injected herself into the spotlight, into the limelight, with her horrific school lunches that she put out off of this, and the conspiracy theories that they point out over on the Alright Conservative about her, and other far-right media over there. The conspiracy theories are out there about her, but she put herself into the spotlight. I mean, she's still doing it to this day. Every time I listen to Spotify, because usually I'll listen to new at work, and then I'll listen to the news in my headphones. Did my webcam just quit? Oh, we might not have anything to look at through the end of the show, because my webcam just quit. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on here. Oh, never mind. There one went. I dropped frames. I guess I don't know what happened there. I don't know if I lost connection or what happened there, but yeah, something dropped off of there. So, going back to the rant that I was going, first ladies should be off limits, just like kids should be off limits. And for the most part, in this administration, I do have to say that Barron has been 95% off limits for all of this. They talk about him here and there, they make a news story about him, but for the most part, they have left him alone. They left Sasha and Malia alone. The Bush twins, they left them alone. I don't even know what their names were. Jenna was one of them, I think. But the Bush girls, they left alone. But kids, and that wasn't the case at the beginning of the Trump administration either. They were on Barron like fucking crazy from the beginning. But kids and First Lady should be off limits, unless they do have political aspirations of their own, which Hillary Clinton clearly did. After being the First Lady, they moved right to New York, and she lived there for exactly 2 seconds before she got voted into the Senate up in New York State, where she became a senator, and then, of course, now she was Secretary of State and failed presidential run. But yes, none of this should be. Melania doesn't want to be in the limelight, which is odd because she was a model and she wanted to be in the limelight before, but she just wants to stand back and let the Donald do his thing and take care of Barron. That's what she wants. All right, let's see what the live chat has to say here after I lost for a second. Saint lost his sainthood. What a loser. Just kidding. We'll sub. Yeah, I'll sub too. Absolutely. You've been here for me since you and I discovered each other. That's absolute. You've been here with me since the real off hours days. Of course, I'll give you a sub. I've heard a lot of what you had to say, and I think it's great. Sparta says, true, they did not care when it happened under Obama. Who cares? She's not the president. Yeah, she was talking about decorations. And she wasn't talking about Christmas. She was talking about this overly commercialized Hallmark holiday that they've morphed Christmas into. Now, I'm going to come right out and say this. I have never decorated this studio for Christmas. Ever. I didn't decorate the last place that I lived in for Christmas. I don't decorate for Christmas. I put a Santa hat on for the entire month of December. And I don't touch Christmas again. That's the extent of it. But for me, the most part of it is the celebration of the birth of Christ and the family time. Not the decorations. Not the commercialism. Not the crazy... I tell people not to get me a Christmas gift. I really do. Because I'm uncomfortable getting gifts. But, I would rather just take the time and spend it with family. I would very, very much rather take the time and spend it with family. Because that's what the season is for me. To celebrate the birth of the Messiah and to spend the time with the family. And I've lost the opportunity to every once in a while to spend the time with the family just because of inability to go and travel for it. But, this nice new truck has helped me out at some point too. But, yeah. So, yes, this over-commercialized thing, this over-decorated thing, that's what she was bitching about. Who gives a fuck about the tree and the red and white color scheme and everything else about this? But, of course, because of the media, because of everything else she had to put out there, she does have to stand out there with that very, very prim and proper look and show off this overly commercialized White House lawn. All right, let's keep going here. Ron says, well, try to get back. Have to put up my hens before it gets any darker outside. I haven't heard that come out of Ron Helton's mouth in a while. That used to be an every week thing. Every time we talked about this over on the Red Net Show. Oh, gotta put... Or no, it was back when it was still Ed's World. Oh, gotta put my hens to bed. Nephilim says, my hens put themselves to bed. Nephilim says, nice hit piece. It was humanizing. Miami's here with the fist. Miami. All right, I got just a couple more to go through with you guys here. Let's see. Let's get the schedule back up here. All right. So I got one more super, super duper cringy video for you guys. And then we'll read a little bit about that. And I've got a little bit of surprise stupidity that I was really, I really wish I could have shared this with Elaine. Because this one's really, really stupid. But let's go have a look at what we've got going on for this super cringy Lori Lightfoot video. You guys have seen it before. A lot of you guys watch Contemporary religiously, and I thank you for that, by the way. But let's have a look at what this one looked like. For posterity's sake, at least.
So guess what we're here to talk about today?
Cringe to a whole new level. I can't believe. And the cheesy superhero music just touched it all right off for me too. The cheesy superhero music was the worst part of it. So, yes, Lori Lightfoot put on a press conference to talk about what trick-or-treating was going to look like in Chicago through the pandemic and had to do so as the Rona Destroyer. Yes, that's right, the Rona Destroyer. As if you couldn't get any more cringy with this. So let's have a read from The Blaze on this. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot dresses up as Rona Destroyer to lay out Halloween guidelines. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot donned a superhero costume during a Halloween-themed news conference on Thursday, dressing up as the Rona Destroyer to roll out the city's COVID-19 restrictions for the popular holiday. Before speaking, Lightfoot stood before the lectern with fellow coronavirus-fighting fictional superhero Public Health Commissioner Dr. Allison Arwady, and the two flexed their muscles to pose before the cameras while carrying pails full of candy. The mayor wore a cape that read Rona Destroyer, they both actually had a cape on that said Rona Destroyer, as she handed out goodies to members of the press pool. Yet that does not sound very, very coronavirus compliant. And let me get that back up here. Oh, they do both have masks on, but yeah, that's, especially if you're not going to take the candy and the goodies back and re-sanitize them, that doesn't sound very, very coronavirus compliant and very social distancing either, by the way. What about social distancing, folks? I don't know, but yeah, that is cringe beyond cringe, beyond cringe, beyond cringe. So, and I want to thank Chris Lokes for bringing this up to my attention, because I would have completely missed this one, but he put a tweet up about it and I found out about it and I had to go back and verify it as well. So thank you, Chris, for that one, bringing up here. And I got one more here, and then we will read a live chat out for the night. Get those stickers up, those of you guys over on DLive. Get those stickers in there, because I want to see all your stickers. If we're going to be out here alone today, I want to see some stickers. Get your DLive stickers up here. All right, the last one here. I have got surprise stupidity. So, from KMOV4, Irish court rules Subway loaves are too sugary to be called bread. That's right, folks. Bread in Subway's hot sandwiches contains too much sugar to be Ireland's legal definition for bread, the country's Supreme Court has ruled. The judgment was handed down on Tuesday in response to a Subway franchisee who had appealed for a tax refund, arguing that its bread is a staple food and therefore subject to a 0% tax rate. 5 judges considered the case, determining that Subway bread has too much sugar in it to be part of this category and is therefore subject to a higher tax. The bread supplied by Subway in its heated sandwiches has a sugar content of 10% of the weight of the flour included in the dough, Justice Donal O'Donnell said while delivering the judgment. So, Subway bread is cake. Rachel from the Libertarian Party over on Twitter was the one that pointed this out to me, and I looked into this and I couldn't believe it. But yes, in 2020, on top of everything else crazy that we've seen this year, in 2020, Subway bread is cake. Now, of course, taxation is theft, and good on the guy for trying to get out of paying taxes off of this. Now, they're not going to get very far in places like Ireland and socialized European countries like Ireland, but still, good on the guy for trying to get out of paying some taxes with that. That's pretty cool of him. But yeah, that's Subway bread is cake. I can't believe that. And how did they get to determining this? I mean, did they get a bunch of scientists to come out and figure this out? I can't find the actual Subway bread recipe. I do wonder if it's out there somewhere, or if it's available, or if they had to submit it to the Irish Supreme Court to come out and figure it out. Could you imagine something like that happening here? Well, that would be on a statewide thing anyway. That wouldn't go on to a federal level case, but like if there was some way to come out and show that, I don't know, your prepared food tax in Wisconsin and Subway's not well, no, that actually is an apt comparison, because Papa Murphy's you can buy an EBT and is not subject to sales tax because it's a not prepared food because it's take and bake. But you're subject to sales tax if you go over to Domino's and get the same pizza. So that is an interesting concept. I didn't think about that way at first, but something to think about as we go along here. And that is going to be it for the day. Got any more chat in here today? No, you guys went quiet at the end of the night. All right. So that's going to be it for the day here. We are going to head on out of here. Thanks everybody who chatted in the live chat. And thank you, Galt, by the way, too. My God. A Ninjet. I'm going to, for anybody else who's over on DLive right now who's still hanging out, I'm going to hit the DLive chest for you guys here. So you'll be seeing that in about 10 seconds. So we'll get that chest out there. Absolutely. Go and get your rewards. Because of the Ninjet, we got a whole bunch of stuff in there. And we're going to head on out of here for the night. So I want to thank everybody who came in and chatted through the end of the night. Miami, Ron Helton, Nephilim Ninja, Spartan, Saint, the Late Night Losers, Saint, all you guys, Private OGITH, I think you might be a robot, but you came in here and chatted. Thanks, you guys, for keeping me company off of this here, because it would have been kind of lonely by the end of the show had I not had somebody sitting up here and talking with me. So thank you guys. Hi, Eric Dolly, by the way. I missed you up. No, I didn't. I mentioned up in here. Thank you, Gult. And thank you, PM Your Nachos. Thanks, everybody, for coming by and hanging out tonight. We will be back here tomorrow morning. I'll be back here tomorrow morning with more contemporary. Where's my outro? There it is. All right. So, we did stream live tonight to DLive, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. I didn't know if we were going to hit Twitch or not tonight because it was giving me some problems when I was changing the titles for everything, but we did stream live everywhere over there, so thanks everybody for coming and checking us out. If you are just catching up now, or you want to catch back up with us, you can find us over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com, which has not been uploading, and I'm going to get that fixed yet tonight, so you can catch us over there as well. Or if you'd rather take me on the go, you can take me on the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And remember, and Spotify, by the way. And remember, if you're over on iTunes, leave that 5-star rating and a good review. That always helps us move up the charts. And if you're over on Spotify, recommend out the podcast to a friend. That helps us move up the charts and helps people know what they should be listening to. Lastly, go over and check out our stuff, along with other great creators, over on freedomscoop.com. It's going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, where you can also check out great shows like The Freckles and Brit Show, The Generational Gap, The Already Conservative, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, and Stephen Ignoramus and all of his mini iterations. So go over there, check us out, pick up some great swag, and help us support great creators. And, once again, lastly, as I have been signing you off with since we started this channel, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts to draw your own conclusions. Elaine is not here to send you guys out, but I know where she usually responds, so be good and make good decisions. Take care.